This is not me.
Dr. Chen, no, we'll flip them out. Actually, the signs are in the other salons. I cannot believe that no one has a question.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Thank you very much. See you later.
Janine has a question.
It's hard. It's hard because, like, for instance, just politically speaking, in Westchester, it's 2-to-1 Democrat, and not to say that all Democrats are liberal, because they're not, but the prevailing philosophy is that, you know, more government and more of sort of the same programs that we've had is better, and I don't subscribe to that. I think we have to take a look at everything we do and not perpetuate, but to prioritize. And sometimes that means going out of our comfort zone. And the fight generally is always about money, but why are we always fighting about money? Why aren't we fighting about what works and what doesn't work? And that's really what we should be fighting about, and that's sort of the fight that we've made it into. If something is good and deserves to be funded, then let's do it. If it doesn't, then why are we wasting money? So, you know, to stand true, look, I'm sure Mark and Ed will say similar things with regard to it's hard sometimes when the winds are blowing the other way, but you sort of just got to plant your feet down. Not to say you won't compromise on things, but your values are your values. I know my values are my values, and I haven't run away from them, and it's been difficult at times, but I've had a lot of people come up to me in both elections, and certainly in my re-election, and say, you know, I totally disagree with you philosophically on a lot of different things, but you kept your promises, or you stood firm on your beliefs. And that means things and something to people, and I admire that, and I respect that, and I'm glad. So, I don't win all the battles, though.
We're going to answer the first one. Can we answer the first question? This is a lady from Colorado. The air is different here, so she's going to rapid fire it left and right. You know, to echo what Rob just said, I think Rob is, what's the ratio of Democrat to Republican in Westchester?
2-to-1.
2-to-1 in Rockland, 2-to-1 in Westchester. We both got elected, and there's a reason for that. There really is no Democrat or Republican way to govern locally, frankly. I've been reelected numerous times. My first legislative district was 3-to-1 Democrat to Republican. If you approach things in a common sense way, yes, there's going to be differences, but this buying into the national fervor where the partisanship becomes much more stark really pales locally, I think. I think if you talk to people, most importantly, you listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. If you do that, people will respect what you're saying. And again, as Rob said, we may not always agree, but as a rule, we're going to find common ground in the vast majority of efforts. And then it's a matter of tweaking and compromise. So this is how you get good things done, especially at the local level. I thoroughly enjoy running for office in off years in local elections because I feel I can touch people, I can get to know them better, and you just get a better sense of what is genuinely important to them. And one of the most frustrating things I run into is that typically in the national elections your turnout is about 65%, at least in Rockland. Local elections is closer to 30 or 35%, and you try to tell people it should be the other way around. You really got to understand policy, programs, the things that are important to you in your day-to-day life largely emanate locally. And I always encourage people to pay more attention to what's happening locally. So achieving that compromise and those goals is really not that difficult, again, as long as you listen, you're straightforward, and you have established a mutual respect with the people you're speaking to.
And let me, it's always tough being the third, you know, it's sort of like, you know, yeah, what they said.
You're the youngest, so you can.
I am the youngest, I am. Rob is the most handsome, however.
And I'm the old guy.
And on that, we have consensus. How does one hold on to their values? I'll be very candid. I don't know what the alternative is. I mean, ultimately, I know what my value set is. I know what my faith tells me. I know what I believe, and I communicate it. And I think as elected officials, and by the way, you're as much to blame as we are. Many times you'll ask a question of a politician, and you want us to wrap it up pretty quickly. But we can't sum up our value set in 30 seconds or less. You can't sum up major policy discussion in a tagline, which is why what you're doing here is of value, going then back into your schools, into the community, and expressing that there is a broad discussion that has to happen. From that, I would just offer to you, I don't know what the alternative to holding firm to my values is. But to Ed's comment, and I would build on that, but it requires us to be compassionate in the way we express our values, to be open to those we don't agree with. I mean, because the only way you can direct someone towards truth is to accept that they may not be there too. And, by the way, that I'm not there either, right? If you're looking for perfection, find somebody else. So the point being that I know what my value set is. I express that to my constituents, and then they choose whether or not I'm the person to serve. And then with that, molding consensus around certain ideas, not rejecting those with whom I disagree, not rejecting opinions that I don't necessarily hold, but rather accepting them and moving together toward an agreed-to consensus or agreed-to truth. Now, the second part is the challenges we face, and that's it, you're done, by the way. You're cut off. This is not a press conference. I mean, it is. I would offer to you this is not you're not the right audience for this, but the challenge, I think, facing us in an overly bureaucratic state is the economics. We are pricing ourselves out of existence. And how that then affects the populations that you're talking about is critical, because we're creating a state where only two groups of people can survive, right? Those who are exceptionally wealthy and those who are exceptionally dependent. And that is not acceptable. So to the point of what's my value set, I have yet to meet someone who at age 5, 15, 20, 50 wants to be told this is how you ought to live your life. You know, my son wants to play for the San Francisco Giants. I have no idea why. He's 5 years old. I'm not going to tell him he can't. I don't want a government that tells a 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, or a 50-year-old, this is how you ought to live your life. What I want is a government and a county and a state that empowers people, that says that if you wish to achieve something, I want to get out of your way and encourage you to do that. But by the way, here are the tools that you need to use to make those important choices, those smart decisions to achieve success. So it all kind of, I'm giving a total answer to what are those two questions, but I think it's important to say to people and to encourage people that you don't want a state government that tells you what to do. You don't want it to impact your economy. You don't want it to impact every aspect of your individual lives, and you don't want to say to a 5-year-old, you are doomed to poverty, and that we only have room for you if you are dependent on us or can avoid us because of your wealth.
Don't encourage him to be a Mets fan. That's child abuse.
He knows I'm a Mets fan.
What I love, I love when I'm told by people who disagree with me, don't impart your values on me. Don't tell us what we need to do. Don't imply and don't impart your values in government on us. It's okay for them to do it to me or to others, but if you disagree with them, don't. It's off limits. Abortion. Let's take the word abortion for a second. I'm not going to go into the whole abortion thing. But the biggest atheist in the world, Christopher Hitchens, was vehemently opposed to abortion. Not on religious grounds, which is how it's always in the context of religion, but on moral and ethical and just scientific. And the whole abortion debate now has become so inflamed, but if you think about it, if you just logically think about it, I mean, nobody, I don't think, is disputing that it's a life, some form, right? But look at how that whole issue has been changed and wrapped into, if you defend a life, you're radical. So I think, part of it has been, many people have been silenced for fear of being ostracized or not going with the conventional wisdom or Hollywood or whatever. But I think it's time where people actually have sort of like that straight talk, Don't be afraid to speak out and have that dialogue, because the thing that they really fear, I think, is an honest dialogue on these issues. Because as I talked about and we've talked about and you've learned, just taking it numbers driven, just to see where the poverty level with more and more money, trillions and trillions and trillions in anti-poverty program has equaled what? More poverty. So we're doing something wrong, and yet there's too many people who want to just put their head in the sand and say, let's just keep doing it. And if you don't do it, by the way, you're this, that, and the other thing. So I think we need honest debate on this level and on that level in Washington, and not fear the retribution that you're going to face by having an honest debate.
I'm just going to echo the comments, and by the way, I'm the rookie county executive. And I'm a Yankee fan, by the way.
Anybody can
My
be.
grandson
Yeah, that's
plays
easy.
for the Boulders. Rockland Boulders, you figure that one out. But anyway, I think 2 points here are to your question about challenges: stridency and bureaucracy. Well, probably the two biggest challenge you face to govern. My background has been both municipal and private sector. I spent 10 years in the private sector prior to becoming county executive. While I was a legislator, I was also working in New York City for a security assistance firm. So I think I bring a broad perspective to things. So I try to get things done, and we grapple with the bureaucracy. We grapple with a state and a federal government that determines this is the way things should happen. They could not be more wrong. What's the definition of idiocy? Is it idiocy? Doing the same thing.
Insanity.
Insanity.
Maybe the same
Same thing. Thank you. From the Youth Bureau. Yeah. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We see it close up. We see the impact or lack of same locally. We're the ones who have to implement it. We're the ones who run it. We're the ones who give the orders to get it done. And then we run into a wall of bureaucracy that is counterproductive and almost counterintuitive at times. So that's one issue. The other issue is, again, stridency. I pride myself on listening. I know I'm not always right because I have a woman at home that tells me that all the time. But the reality is, as I said earlier, if you understand you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, if you understand you need to respect people's opinions, look for common ground, and to Rob's comment, he's true. We become a very strident society. People are very opinionated at times. And I always marvel at that. I don't understand why you walk around in your own skin and just know damn well you're right. That's really a heck of a way to go through life. I know I'm not right all the time. And the beauty of life, as you grow older, you learn. And you don't learn unless you listen. So again, how do we change that? By example. We continue to set the bar with our own organizations that we understand that you all should listen. I have 2,200 employees. They know how I function because I've been out there speaking to them directly. I expect them to deal with the public in that manner. You break down the barriers one day at a time by always being there and trying to do it. And that's pretty much the only way you can.